Hey y'all! So, if you're watching this video, you either really care about straws or you really care about me. Well, for those of you who have been living under a rock about this whole straw thing, different cities and businesses have been instituting bans on single-use plastic straws. And, for most people, this is no big deal. They don't even pay attention to it when they go out to eat. This movement started gaining momentum a couple years back when a video was released. It's really painful of a turtle having what looks like kind of like a McDonald's straw or something pulled out of its nose. It's really, really hard to watch. And a lot of other people thought so too and wanted to make sure that nothing like this happened. Time.com released an article called All the Major Companies That Are Banning Plastic Straws. And it's just a list of all the different businesses and cities that are banning straws and what the ban constitutes. This list includes Starbucks, Disney, Hyatt Hotels, American Airlines, SeaWorld, Royal Caribbean, Marriott, as well as the city of Seattle. Malibu, Oakland, and Berkeley in California all have their own bans as well. Now, this list is not the whole article, but I think you get the point. Now, the main topic of this debate has been the environment, which is super important. But one very important group of people has been getting left out. That group of people is disabled people. And I would know because I'm one of the disabled people that is directly affected by this ban. I'm not the only one either. Pretty much every major and minor news source has written some kind of article talking about how disabled people are getting left out of the straw conversation. CNN interviewed Daniel Gilbert, who has muscular dystrophy. Washington Post published a whole article by a disabled woman whose name was Karen Hitzelberger. She also talks about the SSID marriage inequality, time-tested sheltered workshops, and restrictions on pain meds. All discussions that disabled people are kind of left out of. Now, before we go any further, let me introduce myself and tell you about my disability. My name is Sydney. I am a sophomore at UNC Charlotte. I'm 19 years old, and I have essential tremor. It's a neurological disorder that causes me to shake in my arms, my hands, my head, my jaw, and my vocal cords. It's also the most common movement disorder, yes, even more common than Parkinson's. Now, I have trouble with a lot of things, tying my own shoes, buttoning my own shirts, and you guessed it, drinking out of a cup. I saw the turtle video, and I decided, that's it, I'm done with straws. I told all of my friends that I was determined I was not going to use plastic straws, and they supported me. They supported me even when I was sitting in the middle of restaurants, breaking down crying because I was covered in water. And they told me, Sydney, it's okay to use a straw. Some people need them. And I took their advice. I want y'all to know before I get started that I don't see this from every disabled person's perspective. I can't. But I am going to try to include as many as I possibly can in this. Now, the next question that gets asked a lot is alternatives. Making alternatives to the plastic single-use straw. And, it's a valid argument. I mean, for some people, there's an alternative that already exists that works. But for a lot of disabled people, single-use plastic bendy straws are the best thing on the market right now. But to give you a little more detail, let me talk about the new Starbucks strawless lids first. Now, in July of this year, Starbucks released an announcement on their website telling the world about how they would be getting rid of all straws by 2020. And these straws would be replaced by a new version of the hot drinks lid. It's clear and recyclable plastic, and it has a hole in the top that is teardropped about the size of your thumbprint. 99% of the time when I go out to a coffee shop, any coffee shop, I only get iced drinks. This sucks in the middle of winter. But I can't carry or hold a hot drinks cup. I end up with burns all over my hands from shaking the coffee out of the cup. And then I have to wait for it to cool anyway because I can't control how much I'm actually sipping out. Now, I hate it because if they switch to these lids, I won't be able to get cold drinks either because all they did was make that hole bigger. Now, Starbucks did say that their Frappuccinos would continue with the domed lid and a straw made out of paper. Now, the worst part about this is that people think that paper straws are just the perfect solution, and they are not. They're not. To begin with, they're not flexible. This is a problem for people with limited mobility who need the straw to come to them instead of vice versa. They also get soggy very, very fast, as anybody who's used a paper straw would know, abled or disabled. Now, this can be a choking hazard to some people with disabilities, especially since a lot of disabled people take forever to drink or eat anything because it just takes so much out of us. The next problems affect me a little more personally. Paper straws are not safe in hot drinks. Now, that 0.1% of the time that I get hot drinks, it's usually because, it's cold and I just want to sit in my campus Starbucks and drink hot coffee and study or read or whatever. And typically what I'll do is I'll get my hot coffee and then I'll take a straw and put it through the hole in the lid and sip on it that way. Well, I can't do that with paper straws. They're not hot liquid safe. The other problem is that you can bite straight through them. With my jaw trimmer, I need to be able to bite on my straw to hold everything still while I sip out of the cup. Well, with how fast the straw gets soggy, I can't. I can't bite it. I tried one of Starbucks straws and I bit right through it. Now, the other alternative that Starbucks has suggested is compostable PLA plastic. And if you're fighting straws because of the environment, you need to know that unless these straws are placed under very specific circumstances and conditions, they take years to decompose. And that means plastic straws sitting in landfills and oceans, the same thing that is being fought. These PLA straws are also not heat safe. They only go up to about 110 degrees. Starbucks brews their coffee at around 150 degrees. Most coffee shops brew it closer to 200. So if we're looking at PLA plastic as a valid alternative, I'm done drinking hot drinks with a straw because I can't with this. Now, in Starbucks' article, they said it was a small thing to them. Well, it's not a small thing to us. It's not a small thing to me. It's not a small thing to any of the other disabled people who now have to worry about their freedom every time they leave the house to go out to eat or get coffee. I've seen a lot of questions too about those of us with disabilities. Well, why don't we just, carry around our own alternative? For example, the plastic straw that comes in like your tumblers. These are great. They're cheap, They're hot liquid safe. I personally can bite on this without chipping it or a tooth. But they're not perfect. First of all, they're not flexible. And two, I personally can't clean this. The wand you need to a little brush to stick in the straw and clean it out, I don't have any fine motor skills. I can't get the brush in the straw. So that's a problem because they hold bacteria. And quite obviously, I can't clean metal straws either, like the ones that come in your Yeti cups. They're also not flexible. They're also not hot liquid safe because you will burn yourself on one of those straws. I have done it. It sucks. They can also cause injuries. You bite too hard on that and you're gonna chip a tooth. There have even been disabled people with limited mobility who have cut the insides of their mouths open with them. Rubber straws were what were used before plastic straws were, kind of put out there, and they were disgusting. Now, the other thing is, why don't we just carry around our own single-use plastic straws? Well, some of us do. But that's not fair either. This has less to do with us bringing our own straws and more to do with accessibility. I shouldn't be like, hey, since we're, out shopping, let's go get something to eat. To show up and find that they don't have a straw or a straw that I can use. And be like, you know what? I didn't bring my lunchbox. I didn't bring my backpack. I personally don't carry around a purse. So where am I going to put these? If it's last moment, spontaneous, I don't have anywhere to put plastic straws. Carry them around in my back pocket? It just doesn't work, but these are some of the best options for people. They're bendy. They move. They're heat resistant. They're cold resistant. I can't chip a tooth biting this. These are the best options for people, and we shouldn't have to worry about whether or not we're going to go without because we forgot our purse at home. Now, if you want to read more about this, one of my favorite articles was by NPR. They did an article called Why People with Disabilities Want Bans on Straws to Be More Flexible. I will put a bunch of links in the description. If you have questions, drop me a comment. I do ask that everybody is respectful. I'm also going to ask that even if you do not care about straws, that you share this video. Because you never know who is going to see it and just might learn something from it. Thanks, y'all.